Hello guys, man. I kind of want to talk about Somalia a little bit more in this video. Like just kind of touch on all the different topics of Somalia and why the country is the way it is now. Did I close the door? Yeah, I did. But let's start from let's start from 2006. 2006. We'll give you guys a little bit of backstory on the 1990s Civil War. Actually, we have to go back to the Ogaden War of 1977 to kind of understand the full picture first. So basically, but we have to go before that to the independence. So we had two presidents after we had independence in 1960. Then we had a president and then another president. So we had two terms. After that, the whole premise of that. Shit, let me go turn. Let me fucking close the window, man. I can't hear myself talk, bro. But yeah. During that time, there was kind of like some kind of stability in the country. We had democratic elections. We didn't really have too much clan problems. And during that time, Ethiopia was trying to influence us all. Ethiopia has always been our enemy throughout history, always. Like if you look at history, and you look at our history, the Ogaden War, they've been our enemy. Then after we lost the Ogaden War, they set up insurgencies and tried to attack border towns along the Jubaland area. They're still doing the same thing. They invaded in 2006 to try and topple the Islamic Courts Union. Those are just little bits and pieces. But let me try to like give you guys the chronological order of how things happen. So then after that, Siad Barre came into power. He became the dictator. He nationalized all of Somalia's industry. He made the literacy rates go up, but he brutally oppressed all opposition groups. There was no free media, no free press, no freedom of speech. There was better literacy rates. The country was getting better in terms of infrastructure, but he was killing and brutally oppressing a lot of people. And he was using clan resentment against each other to try and pit different clans against each other, like the Isaac clan and the Darod clan. But Siad Barre was a Darod. He was a Darod clan member, which is primarily from the Ogaden region and the Puntland region. And Puntland mostly has major clans as well. My region is Hawiya, Mogadishu. Jubaland is mostly Marahans, right? And Khawarij and Al Shabaab. They operate mostly in the south. Um, well, let's get to Al Shabaab later on in the video because that kind of ties into Ethiopia's invasion of 2006 and the fall of the Islamic Courts Union. But um, Siad Barre, he nationalized all of the industries. He made the country better in terms of like aesthetically, he made it better. But if you kind of peel back the layers a little bit, he was brutally oppressing all opposition groups. He made the country secular, so he banned all religious representation. He dissolved parliament. Um, yeah, so he was a dictator essentially, right? Authoritarianism. Then well, basically, I think people were more like they had this wet dream of being a unified Somali republic, which is something I would like. You know, I would love to see us unified Somali republic, but they wanted to go a step further. They wanted to conquer the lands in Ethiopia. They wanted to conquer the lands in Kenya, the NDF, and they wanted to conquer the lands in Ethiopia, which is the Ogaden region. Why did they want to do that? Because those are primarily Somali inhabited lands, and the Europeans gave away those lands to the Kenyans and the Ethiopians. They were the ones that set up those border lines and created all of these problems and clan divisions. The Italians, the French, the British, they are the overarching problem. They're the reason why we're in the problem today. And then second is the Ethiopians. Then they're the second weapon, second problem. So mostly it's the Europeans that are the reason why we're in the position that we are in today. Perhaps we should have just said to the Europeans, "Oh, it's okay. You can have our borders. You can do whatever you want," which is what they did in reality. But we kind of wanted to buck against the system a little bit and fight, you know, and get our land back. That's what we wanted to do. And I think the plan was right, but the execution was wrong. Siad Barre had the right vision, but he had the wrong execution. brutally cracking down on all opposition. No protests, no nothing. That's a simmering pot waiting to boil over and causing all sorts of war crimes in the Isaf region in the north. Well, that was primarily after the fall of the Ogaden War, but yeah. So let's get into Ogaden War now. Siad Barre launched the Ogaden War in 1977. I'm not sure about the date, but the month. But he launched the war in 1977. Ah, yes. And we also had a lot of backing from the Soviets at that time, with artillery, with weapons, with tanks, with all sorts of trucks and logistics equipment. Because because the Soviets were helping the Ethiopians and us at the same time at that time, but the Americans were also helping the Ethiopians too. There was a Cold War going on at the time, which kind of overshadowed the whole thing. Like we were kind of like little puppets and pawns playing our own game, while the big game was actually happening in real time. We're playing the small game. Nobody really cared about Ethiopia and Somalia. The Europeans never really cared about it. There was a Cold War going on, so they had to like it was East versus West versus East. But let me get into the Ogaden War. So initially, we're having major success. We're beating the fuck out of the Ethiopians. We're beating the fuck out of them. We're winning the war. We've conquered 90% of the Ogaden region. We're pushing forward. We're trying to reach Addis Ababa. We're about to win. We're on the precipice of victory. We're right there, the gates of victory, right there. And then the Soviets, well, there's a lot that happened in between that. Siad Barre kind of like he basically said none of the Soviet advisors are welcome in the country. He told them all to leave. So he repelled the ambassador. He repelled all the Soviet national advisors. He repelled all the Soviet people and their families to go before the war. Was it before the war or was it during the war? I think it was during the war when it started to turn, perhaps. Yeah, because the Soviets they helped the Ethiopians more than the Somalis, probably because we kicked out their ambassador and all of the people that were in the country. We kicked them all out. We said no more negotiations. We don't want to talk to you guys. Maybe we should have done that instead. Maybe we should have actually negotiated with them and tried to like create some kind of boundary line or like a ceasefire line or something like that. So then we would actually still have control of the Agadan even now. But perhaps it was overarching. Perhaps it was something like, oh, Seattle was thinking, oh, we can maybe defeat both. No, he didn't think that. I don't think he thought he could defeat both. He thought, I don't know what he thought, man. That guy's a fucking genocidal dictator. I don't know what's going on inside his mind. But very pragmatic and charismatic. That's something we cannot deny. But so following that, we lost the Ogaden War. We got repelled out of Ogaden. We fled back into Somalia. Then afterwards, as revenge for not succeeding in the war, revenge. I don't know, like, is that revenge? Is it really revenge? He didn't have revenge. He was just brutally killing people that he thought was going against what he said was right. So he started killing the majority of Asaf clans in the north and killing a lot of people in the south. Not just the Asafs were not the only people that were genocided though. It was also the Majarten clan, it was also the Hawiya clan, it was also many clans. But I think they were the ones that were majorly that were systematically targeted in that way. So I do kind of understand them yearning for independence. And we all suffered under him. Like we all suffered equally, not equally, but some people suffered more than others. But how is the solution to that problem to secede from the country, make a deal with the Ethiopians behind our back, our arch enemies that we fought for many, many years? You're gonna fucking ally with them? Like, I honestly think Somalilanders are traitors to the cause. I think they're traitors. Honestly, I think they're all fucking traitors. What do I think should happen to them? I don't necessarily think we should go in there and try to kill them all. No, I don't think we should do that. I think they're fucking traitors, and their leader should be not killed, but assassination. I don't think that would actually work in terms of like how a vacuum would exist. Like, I don't think an assassination would work. But I think he should be punished like quite a bit. But the federal government of Somalia doesn't really have any power. I'll try to explain it to you guys a little bit. But Jubaland is mostly controlled by Kenyan troops. Ethiopia controls a lot of the border towns with Ogaden. There's also some Burundian forces in our country. There's also some fucking holy shit, man. Ugandans there. There's Burundis there. There's fucking Kenyans there. All sorts of people are there, man. Like, you know what I mean? Like the federal government of Somalia just doesn't have the power to do anything, man. Nobody respects them. I don't respect them. I don't respect him. Hassan Sheikh. I don't respect the guy, man. Like I don't respect him. Let's move on to Al Shabaab now. So Ethiopia invaded in 2006. They toppled the government, the Islamic Courts Union. They toppled it. They neutralized it. They installed the federal government of Somalia, the TFG, and they installed a puppet regime. Essentially, that's what happened. I mean, let's cut through the bullshit. Hassan Sheikh's a puppet. Fromage is a puppet. All the other previous administrations were puppets. The federal government of Somalia doesn't really control Mogadishu even. It controls Mogadishu, but that's it. That's all. That's all they control. They don't control anything else. They don't control Puntland. They don't control Jubaland. They don't control Hirshabelle. They don't control Somaliland. Definitely not. So essentially, they're just a government in name. They're a government de jure, not de facto. De facto is what's happening on the ground. It's fact. It's why it's called de fact. Fact. It's literally what's happening on the ground is de facto. De jure is just something in legal terms. Legally, you own that, but de facto, he stole it from you. Essentially, yes, that's what it means. But yeah, man. I just kind of like explained everything to you. Al Shabaab, they came into power after Ethiopia's failed invasion of 2006. Well, not really failed. They succeeded in toppling the government, changing the government to the federal government of Somalia, and after 2 years, 3 years, they left in 2009. Yeah, they left in 2009, but they stayed for a couple years. Left in 2009. Then Al Shabaab became more powerful. Al Shabaab started to kill civilians. They killed many Ethiopians. There's Ethiopian dogs. Now, do I necessarily think Al Shabaab is bad or good or in between? Like, I can give you guys my examples. Like, I blame Ethiopia for Al Shabaab. I don't blame anybody else. You know, it's interesting, like looking at it from the perspective of the president. Like, he says that the Hamas fighting in Palestine is a freedom fighter, right? But he says the not Islamic State, but the Al Shabaab fighters in Somalia are terrorists, right? I'm just trying to like understand the whole concept there. I think most people agree that Al Shabaab are terrorists. You know, even when I go to Somalia, I talk to the people there. Do I think they're terrorists? You know, honestly, I'm kind of like trying to understand the whole concept. But they're fighting foreign invaders in our country, but they're also fighting the government troops as well. Yeah, I don't think I'm going to criticize them, man. I don't think I'm going to criticize them because they're fighting the Ethiopians, you know? No one else is fighting the Ethiopians or the Kenyans or fucking nobody. And the reason Al Shabaab is here because of the Islamic Courts Union deception. They deceived the Islamic courts. They took them out. But anyways, man, that's my piece.